used to be one of those guys that was like, hey, man, anytime, anywhere, you let me know. Let's get this podcast on. And now I've had to grow up a little bit, and I've got my podcast start. I looked at when you told me it was OG Secret on during our podcast, I actually did look at my schedule and go, all right, can we reschedule this? And it was more of a, I think there's no Axie Tuesday this week if this doesn't happen. So I'm glad we did decide to go for it. But maybe a good place to start, man. Fucking TI. It's here. It's around. No audience, but I'm sure you've been soaking it up, right? How'd you find the group stage, my friend?
You know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. I wasn't soaking it up as much as you would think. I've been spending so much time on working on my Axie stuff, like breeding, scholarships, and uh, just planning for the next season. But in terms of Dota, I think there's been a lot of impressive teams. Like for example, Team Spirit and Undying. I think those guys have been very impressive to me watching them. Then EG, like getting lower bracket, that is a huge shock. They also got Dr. K. I don't know if you know of him.
Oh, I do.
He
He's
was
the Harvard content creator
yeah,
guy, right? Yeah.
exactly. They got him. So I had high hopes for EG. I was thinking like, yo, these guys are gonna go all the way. But right now they find themselves in the lower bracket against Elephant, and that's scary because I actually had both of these teams in the top four, like
Wait,
EG
it's
and
still
Elephant.
best of one, lower bracket round one.
Yep,
Why?
2021, and we're still
Why?
in best of ones for I don't even know. And the other thing is the prize money is crazy this year. 17 and 18 only got like 100K, and then everybody like in the top 16 minimum was $500,000 or
Oh, it
$600,000.
was that
That was
big of a
insane.
jump? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. So it's 600,000 actually now. It just rolled over. It goes from the percentage breakdown for 5th to 6th is 3.5%, which translates to 1.4 million. 7th to 8th is 2.5%, which translates to 1 million. 9th to 12th, 2% for 800K. And then 13 to 16 is 1.5% for 600K. And then it drops down to 0.25% for 100K for Thunder Predator and SG Esports. Damn, bro.
Crazy. Listen,
That is
yeah,
savage.
I was just thinking if that's what it was, like, starting 10 years back, I'd be a millionaire right now. All those bottom 16 placements I got at TI, sheesh. I'd be rolling in them dough right now.
I mean, just for comparison, 600K, like what was the first international? Like TI1 or
There
TI2
were,
even?
so TI1, TI2, TI3, only the top 8 got money. Everybody else
Oh.
got nothing.
So TI,
Zero.
yeah, you're right. You're right.
Top 8 at TI1 was $25,000 in $1 million
So
event.
yeah, they
Or
didn't start.
$1.6 million event.
You're totally right. They didn't start doing prizing down past 8th until
Or TI.
TI4, and that was 13th and 14th was 21,000, and they were actually
Yes.
19 teams
Yes.
in
And
2014.
so in TI1, I got 7th, 8th. TI2, we were, I think, 14 or something. Not sure, really. One of those placements. TI3, we were like top 12. Then TI4, we got last, like 15, 16. And the sad thing about TI4 was you got money in the top 14. But
Oh,
number 15 and 16 didn't get anything.
dude, you were on
Uh,
Mouse in 2012, and your team was Black, Sing Sing, Sexy Bambo, 1437, and Kuroki. That's a fucking
yeah.
lineup right there, man.
So
Holy shit.
funny story there. We were there for vacation because we were just a backup team at TI2. Okay. We weren't supposed to be playing at TI. They just asked us to come just in case of backup. And then I believe it was MEFC who one of their players smoked on the flight
Oh
while
my god, I
traveling to
remember
TI.
that. And the plane got
Yeah.
grounded, right?
Yeah. It was Sharky, rest in peace to
Oh
him.
my god, it
He
was
he did pass
Sharky.
away.
Fuck, that's
Yeah.
so sad.
So because of that, they couldn't make it. So they had like this like wild card. That's where the wild card started. There was a wild card slot, and then we had to play against CDEC. Not was it CDEC? I can't remember what the team was. I think it was CDEC. In a best of 5, and we beat them, right? And Kuroki wasn't even our 5th player. He was just a stand-in on this vacation team. It was actually Come With Me, who's our player, but he couldn't get visa to come. Yeah. So we were like play, and then at least we didn't MUFC. That's what mattered. So we won that best of five, and then we played. We won a few games, um, and then we got knocked out by eHome in the lower bracket.
Oh yeah, the lower bracket round. Although it looks like it was BO1 elimination all the way
Yeah.
to lower bracket round 4 back then. How far we've come in terms of tournament format. I mean, I guess TI2 there was probably like legit. There were like time constraints or something, but still, that's insane that it was all just best of one elimination for like basically all of the tournament. Most of this actual main event is best of one. That's unbelievable.
It was very interesting times, that's for sure. And looking back on it, it was a lot of heartbreak and a lot of time invested, and not a lot in returns. I think when I was playing Dota, like I didn't really make a lot of money till after TI4. Yeah, after that, that's when like there was a huge boom, and there's a bit more tournaments and a lot more prize money.
Right.
I also became the coach of Team Secret at that point, and that kind of like really. Uh, change things for me.
Yeah. Dude, I'm looking at this old talent list though. How far talent has come in Dota 2. Like even Lumi's on here, AC, Slesh, DPM. I don't know who's Triumph. I've never heard that name before. Apparently an Australian caster. You remember Nebula, dude?
Yeah.
Have you met him before?
I think I did. He
Wow.
wasn't. Yeah, he was nice. He
So
was a nice person.
for those that I'm sure most people listening have no idea who we're talking about, this guy Nebula, he used to be a Dota commentator. He was on the panel with Bruno and Too Good way back. He was there, what, like TI1, TI2, maybe TI3? I can't remember where he fell off. But he was like done with Dota around the time I first started getting into it. Like TI3 was the first TI that I actually watched and was like, actually kind of following some of the storylines and stuff. But I bumped into Nebula in a pub like 5 or 6 years after that. It was like after I had left Beyond the Summit, and he claimed to be him, and it seemed like it was him based on the stuff that he was saying. And I think he was drunk and he was feeding on Storm Spirit mid and claimed to be smurfing because he was really some amazing 7K player back then. And then as we started losing, he started flaming me more and more and started making fun of me for being a garbage caster. And I remember ending that game just like, is this real life right now? Is this really like a TI caster telling another TI caster that he sucks? Like, why is this happening? And that's the only interaction I've had with him. And to this day, I still don't know if it was actually him. But who would spoof that? Who would pretend to be Nebula in 2017 to flame Zyori in a 3K North American pub? I mean, that's a wild setup for somebody to pretend. I don't know.
I'll tell you one thing. Only bad players trash talk like that.
Well, he was feeding on Storm at 3K, so I mean,
I'm never in my 10 years or no. I've been playing since Dota 1. It was 14 years I've been playing. Over half my life. Never once did a good player ever say anything bad to somebody else, like to actually trash talk them. Like it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Especially if someone that you know. Like she's not
a colleague.
Like,
yeah, that's the thing.
You have respect for one another. That's for sure.
And we don't all always get along, right? I think it's safe to assume, like most people would wonder, it's a big talent list at TI. Not everybody there is equally good friends with each other as everybody else, right? There are some groups, and there's a little bit of a perceived pecking order, whatever. It's just, social systems are complex, but there's a baseline of professionalism and just like, we're all on the same team here. We all benefit from like our shared passion, interest in game, getting more exposure, doing better, whatever it is. So you have more in common than you don't. I think that's always important to remember. Probably just in general, right? As humans, we tend to have more in common with each other than we don't, but we really latch on to these really small differences to, form these tiny groups and then fight amongst each other. That's just how humans roll, man. That's how we do it.
I would say though, like personally, I feel sometimes it's good to get people to call one another out though, like just a little bit, because I feel like that pushes people to become better. Obviously not in like a very negative way, but if you see something blatantly happen, don't just ignore it. Like I would really like if someone saw I'm doing something and it's not good, I would like them to tell me. I know it's gonna, even though I might feel bad about it in the beginning, like eventually I'll take that in and make myself a better person. It's much better than having a bunch of people always being all like,
Yeah.
happy go lucky and just like pretending like everything's gonna be okay.
No, totally, dude. That's I think that's spot on. At most commentators I know that are good have some degree of that. I'm gonna dive into the filth and sift through it. Like that guy, Mr. Avo. I fucking love him. I'm so proud of him for making it to TI and slaying it as a host. And like that guy is a gem, man. He speaks multiple languages and he grinds. I mean, there's been like DPC seasons where he's casting in English and in Spanish, basically full time in two separate regions, just grinding it out hard. I mean, that's another level of being bilingual. But he has that same energy. That's one of the reasons why I started connecting with him, because every time I had a conversation with him, I would say that like, "Hey man, can I like give you some criticism?" He's like, "Hit me with it, please. I love it. I'm one of those guys. I read all the comments. I read every single comment, and sometimes it's mean, but it fuels me. I just want to prove those motherfuckers wrong. You know what I mean, man? Like, dude, I fucking love this guy. This is the kind of that's the energy you need to really." I think Meg, is it Pyrian Flax that said like, listen, there's nothing you can say that's going to offend me. All right, I read Twitch chat every day of my life, so good luck to you. Good luck trying. And that's a little sad, but I think there's like a lot of truth there too.
I think you muted.
Oh,
I lost it for a second.
check.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you got to have that. So how you finding Axie, man? How's the switch? As we just alluded to in this opener, man, you played in TI1. You're not just a Dota player. You're like, Dota has been your life for what,
Yeah.
most of your actual life? I mean,
Yes. More than half my life.
yeah, and like Brax is in sort of a similar category. Like he's another one that's been spending a lot of time playing Axie, long Dota roots, and I've been chatting to him about this sort of similar experience, and I'm curious to hear what yours is like. I mean, how does it feel? Is it scary? Is it motivating? Is it, do you miss it? Are you still grinding pubs at all?
In terms of Dota, I still play, just not as much as before. Obviously, this is like the off season for Dota players in general. But like, I started playing Axie about 2.5 months ago. I'm closing in on 3 months now, and I just been like deep diving into it, man. I spent literally almost majority of my day on it. There's so much to do, and I feel very satisfied in a way. Like when I came in, it was at its peak. That's when I think SLP was close to about 35 cents.
Oh, that's like legit
that's
peak.
yeah,
Oh,
that's
God.
like legit. So when I bought in for like a significant amount. But like even though the Axie, SLP, whatever, everything has gone on, or like kind of how do you call it, balanced out a little bit. I still feel like there's so much to be done in the game in terms of monetary value and all that stuff. But for me, the reason why I stuck around is because I just enjoy the gameplay. I love playing PvP. I love strategy games. I love card games. And this has all of that. I love the mind games that are involved in it. One of the most satisfying thing is like you have like a plant in last stand, and then your opponent thinks that you're not gonna do anything, and they don't want to attack into that plant, so they pass, and they use that plant to like use two serious on it when it's in last stand. It's like two energy swing, like just like kind of little mind game things like that you can
Yeah.
do. Understanding where your opponent's mindset is at. I don't know if you remember, but I played Dota Underlords for a really long time.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah. The auto
I was,
battler.
yeah, the auto battler, and I was like rank 1 in that game for like a significant amount of time, and I played in like tournaments.
What was that
And I
grind
stopped.
like? Was it hard to maintain one? Like, did you have to play a significant amount of hours?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about me though. Like I come from Dota where we play like especially when we were younger, we played 10, 12 hours a day. So that's already built into me. So when I played Underlords, I was definitely playing a lot more than other people. And that kind of obviously helped me get better much quicker. So in Axie Infinity is very similar situation. I put a lot of hours into it because I want to become the best.
Yeah.
So in Dota Underlords, like when I played that game, I enjoyed it even more because it was kind of like where Dota you have 5 players and every other player you can't really account for what they're doing. You kind of like just have to work together.
Yeah.
Dota Underlords, it's just you. right?
Yeah.
So if you lose, you make a mistake, you can only blame yourself. You can only look at yourself now. You can't blame your teammates anymore. So in Axie Infinity, same exact thing. You build a team, you do the best that you can. It's all about you and what you can do to improve yourself. So I kind of like that because it keeps pushing me to become a better player, but also a better person.
Yeah. No, wow. It's interesting to me that you said that there's already so much to do in Axie because I think there is truth to that. And people often latch on to the like, there's all I can do is play battles. It's like, no, like breeding and collecting and making content are all things to do. And the way the game is balanced, like I find myself constantly opening up these boxes of like, whoa, that's a really cool combo. What if I mix it with this? And then, you start fishing for these Axies. And I bought a backliner yesterday that, again, in my head, I screwed up Scarab. I keep messing up. Keep forgetting how important speed is to make Scarab work. And that's why Scarab kind of sucks. But I went deep last night and I started fishing around. I found a category of Axies where the 4 combo I wanted, there's like 22 of them total. And one of them was for sale and it was for less than 0.1 ETH. And in my head, I'm like, that's the jackpot. Oh my God. They don't know what they have. This person thinks they have an amalgam Axie, and this is actually insanely rare. And I think this combo might be kind of good. I haven't tried it yet, so I'm like a little embarrassed to say it sounds like new meta shit because all my new meta calls always end up flopping. I'm still not that good. But the energy is the same, right? It's that excitement, and that I keep surprising myself every time I go down that rabbit hole, and I think I don't need any more Axies. I've got 5 like legit comps I could play with. But once those wheels start turning, dude, and once you find that rarity meets what you think is good meets something you don't have meets like you think other people haven't figured it out yet, and God damn, you just want to play Axie. Like it happened to me on the weekend. I was going to stream for an hour. 4 hours later, I'm like, all right, one more. I can't end on a lose streak, And you're just
Yeah, I mean, there's so many new things in this game. There's so many people who talk about like balance changes, but to be fair, the more time passes by, is like the cards are being balanced on its own because if there's a comp that is so broken, people are gonna breed the counter to that comp into existence if it doesn't already exist.
yeah,
That's what's so amazing about this game. Like when the Poisoners came out, everyone's like, "Oh, this is so strong. What do we do? We can't beat it." And then on the marketplace, these poison Axies were going for like 1 ETH each or something ridiculous, And then 2 weeks later, all of a sudden, you see some players bringing out this Biden's plants with zigzags, and then another week later there's even more of them, and then they keep breeding, and then those becomes expensive because there's so little of them available and they're so good against the meta game. And then by the end of the last season, 70% of the leaderboards was Biden's zigzags plant plus double talk bird.
dude.
That's what it was, even though at the start of the season it was all poison teams.
Yeah, no, it's wild, and that's when people ask me about like the responsibility of nerfing and buffing and this whole. I bought 3 Axies. Is my investment safe? It's like you gotta think about this ecosystem as a revolving door. With or without like buffs or nerfs in any individual season, it changes really fast. And whenever people ask me about buying meta comps, I always advise like, think about what you actually want to play first and what your preferred playstyle might be, and then try to min-max within that world. If you like aquas, look for the best aquas that you can afford in your budget, but don't try to chase the meta. That's a really tough. I mean, if you're a really high-level player and you're playing every day, maybe you're working on innovating the meta. But in terms of, I can only afford 1 set of Axies, what should I buy? I think chasing the meta is a bit of a fool's errand, and you're likely to buy something that's probably overpriced. I mean, I've been there. I was breeding like at the time you got in during peak Axie madness, and I bought a couple like close to pure Axies for like 0.45. That's a freaking expensive Axie right there.
That.
And at the time, I was thinking like, man, this is a pure Axie. This thing's going to be super rare. And I mean, it is a little rare, but it turns out the difference between 97% and 100% is not that much. The hundreds are a little much. But yeah. Anyway, are you doing much breeding?
Yes, I was doing a lot of breeding. Okay, so my story is like when I first started, I just had 3 Axies and 2 eggs. Like that's all I had. And then eventually, like once those eggs hatched, and then I checked out like what genetics were, and I just kept going from there. I just kept breeding over and over, selling some of the really high end stuff I sold. Like you said, like the thing about breeding is the more popular something becomes, the less it's going to be worth as time goes on, because there's going to be way more people constantly breeding those things for like profit, or because like it's in high demand. So breeding, and like you said earlier about playing PvP axes or meta axes, it's a game. You know, you have to understand when to get in, when to get out, and you have to keep up with that. You know, it's not up to the developers to decide whether your investment is safe or not. That's your responsibility. That's literally what, crypto's been all about, right? Like
Yeah.
everything is in your hands essentially. So you have to always think about, okay, I'm going to get this team. Till when is it good to hold this team? You know, what value does this team hold me? Or should I get another team that is probably not going to be,
Hmm. It's like
balanced?
you got to diversify within that Axie
Exactly.
investment. Yeah.
Exactly. So breeding is very similar to that, where like you don't want to be always breeding S tier stuff. Like if you want to breed S tier stuff, then you need to understand like you're probably gonna have to get out of that very soon.
And it's
Because
usually
like
high risk from like you need weird combos that are hard to.
right,
It's easy to breed serious plants, right? Because there's really pure
exactly.
serious lines. It's really hard to just get cuckoo aquas with koi tail exactly like you want every time. For like every
Yep.
four breed, you might get one that's actually the combo that's legit. So it's
Right.
yeah,
Purification. So they call that the purification process, and that sometimes takes 3 rounds of breeding, which is a ridiculous amount of money, or like materials that you need to go through those three
yeah,
rounds. But then you get, rewarded handsomely afterwards. So that's why like you got some of these breeder guys, they're really, really good at it. They've spent so many, days studying this and going through their mistakes. There's so many new players that come into this game who talk to me and they're like, "Oh, I want to start breeding," and then they show me the two axes they want to breed, and I'm like, "Bro, you can't breed those.
yeah,
That's trash. You're gonna literally lose your money. I'm gonna save you like $1,000 right now.
yeah,
Don't breed that." That's all I tell them. And I'm
yeah.
like, "Okay, just take this thing and take this thing instead. Breed these two. You have a better odds of getting something."
It's like
Like
at
what
first
what
when people are so excited, they think that like the process of breeding is actually the fun part. And it's like, dude, the fun
Yeah.
part is the planning and like the math and the chances and like you're like making your own loot box kind of. That's the
Yes.
fun part. Just pressing the breed button is the least interesting part about it. That's what you're focusing on right now, and you got to focus on the back end. Yeah,
It's crazy, man. There's so much to it. Like I was actually I don't know if you remember when I first messaged you about when I was starting this game. Like I didn't really come in with a lot of money into the
yeah,
game.
yeah.
Um, I think it was like close to $5,000 or 4,800 when I bought in, and I never put any other money
It's
into
like
the game now. So
1.5 ETH, something like that. So that's a pretty
um
small budget, right?
no,
That's
at that time it was about 2 ETH,
two
because
ETH.
I think
Okay.
ETH was at like $1,700.
Oh yeah, that was
I'm not sure,
before
or
the
two
pump.
thousand
Okay,
dollars.
still
Yeah, yeah.
that's a pretty modest budget though. I mean, that's like
Right. So from there, now I would say I probably have assets close to like 30K. So and
that's
that
pretty
and like
impressive. Yeah,
and that's how like if you really know what you're doing and you really study and like you absorb all the content and information out there, like you can make some nice moves. It's not also about breeding, it's about like, making some flips on the marketplace, for example, like
yeah,
finding axes that are like incredibly good at a low price, selling it back. Like how I started with breeding was I couldn't afford to buy those axes that you were talking about, those pure aquas that you
hmm
bought for like 0.45. I couldn't buy that because then there goes my budget, right?
yeah,
So what I did was like I sniped on the marketplace some like 3 out of 7 breeds that had insanely good genetics,
mm,
and I bought two of them, and then I bred those two for like, the egg costed me like maybe $600 at the time, for one egg. But then that egg, when it hatched and it became like the zero breed, high purity Axie, like that was worth, 1,000 some dollars already at that
right,
at that moment, right? So I did that. Like obviously it's slow. Like if I had, let's say, $20,000 and I was able to start a farm right away, obviously I
yeah,
would make more money faster. But this process was slow, but it just goes to show that it doesn't matter what investment that you start with, as long as you know what you're doing, like you're gonna be able to grow. You just have to like put the time and the effort into it.
Yeah. No, and it's cool. Like I think one of the things that gravitated me towards Axie was understanding that there's an actual novel application of blockchain and economy stuff. You know, like a lot of the like ICO early blockchain projects, not just with games even. It's like just swapping out, hey, I swiped my credit card to I did a Bitcoin transaction or an Ethereum transaction. That's not really an innovation. You know, that's not really novel. You just swapped out payment processors. But the Axie economy being, as you said, balanced by the players, and like that's part of the pendulum that swings, is that players have the control and everybody wants to make money and beat the system. So when something gets really popular, everybody breeds it, then it gets bred out, and then like I bought a couple like dumpster Terminators for like 0.07. You know, I mean, they weren't great. They had some issues, but they were still Terminators, and that's like, I mean, that's pretty close to floor for an Axie that is very solid.
Right.
You know, that'll get you way past 1200 MMR. That's just a wild dynamic. It's like sort of a meme, like the players own the economy, but there is also a lot of truth to it. Axies only get created when players make them. SLP only gets minted when somebody plays the game and puts their time, effort, and energy into it. So, like, those being the most fundamental kind of structures of the economy, it really does make things very interesting. Like there's, as you said, a natural balance patch that happens at all times of people all trying to outsmart each other. I mean, now that there's so much money for any given season in the AXS there for like the top 1,000 or, you know, whatever it ends up being, shit's pretty damn competitive, dude. I know you had a tough run right at the end of the season. That's always a stressful time for competitive Axie players.
Yeah. It was really rough. I was actually sitting the day before the last day on rank 13, and then I decided, hey, let me actually try to get top 10. Like, you know me, I can't settle for anything that's
Go big
not
or
top
go
1.
home, dude.
Yeah. Even though 30 was amazing, then like I kind of had a couple bad runs. You know, you tilt a little bit, and then I got stuck in like around 200 rank, where in that bracket the teams that were being played kind of locked me in, where I kept playing, like I kept winning one game, two games, and then I would lose one. Like there's this like this cycle where you kind of play against the same 4 or 5 players, and then it kept being like a rock paper scissors, and I didn't have like the right team that could beat, you know, 3 or 4 out of 5 of those players when I got stuck there. But when I was like in the top 13, I did have that against the players that were there. So it was
the
bad.
Flip. Yeah, I see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like speaking of that, like in Axie, it doesn't in every single rank, there's so many different metas that you literally can't play the same Axies like in every single meta.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about Terminators, right? And Terminators, I just moved to Trezor, so I started from 1200 and I climbed my way up. Now I just hit like 2K after like 2 days here, and I went through every single like different meta there. Like at the start, it was double aquas with a plant in the back, like these, you know, very standard pure teams. They actually put the plant in the back, and it works. You know, it's very smart what they do. And then I reached a point there was like beast bird teams, and then there was the Terminator teams. And then now, after 2K, here comes the poison teams, right? It's like every single little bracket has its own meta. And like you need to, and I can see how if you don't have the right counters in your meta, like you can't get past
You get
it.
stuck there. You hit this brick wall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like in the top 100 to like 300 areas, there's no Terminators. They've gone extinct because all the players are so good at playing around those stuns, right? But that also means that now you can play Axies that Terminators are good against. Like, for example, backliners that don't have any zero cost. Like, you can actually play those in the top 300, but you wouldn't be able to play that same Axie in, like, the 1,800 ranks.
Yeah.
Because you're up against so many Termies.
No, I think you're totally spot on. You see these kind of breakpoints, and every season I've experienced that. And you'll cruise through one part where, like, I was playing double anemone lineup a couple seasons ago, and I cruised from like 1,300 to 1,700. It was like I think I went on a 16 game win streak. It was like the easiest MMR of my life. I wish I'd done it on stream. I remember watching TV, just being like, damn, I'm like crushing it right now. And I'm really not trying. I'm not counting cards. I'm just kind of playing anemones and healing. And then I hit that brick wall, and I think I stopped at 1750 that season. It was like I hit that point where people had beasts in there, and they had the burst damage, and they knew what to do against an enemy, and they would just pass 3 turns, and then 1 tap, then pass 2 turns, then 1 tap, and that was it. It was just over. Then my poor little bird or mech or whatever I had in the back would just flop over and lose all these 1v1s, and that was the end of my run that season. So, yeah, I didn't have that's when you got to switch it up and, evaluate your own play style. And instead I just found something else to do. But hey, you're a real grinder. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, I just love games, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you know me from Dota 2,
Yeah.
Dota Underlord, same thing. Now I'm in Axie. I'm gonna do the same thing here. Like, I'm just out to become the best, and I'm not gonna stop.
Yeah. So what you just talked about though, when you're high on the MMR leaderboard and the season's almost over and you kind of get stuck in this cycle, I did ask internally if we have like separate servers or if there's any algorithmic explanation for why that would be. If like we had any anecdotal evidence of, hey, these 2 people have been queuing at the same time. They've both played 100 matches. They're within whatever close amount of MMR, and they haven't been matched up once.
Right.
What's causing this anomaly? I was basically told, like, no, there shouldn't be anything like that. We don't have a regional matchmaking. It should just be like random giant pool. It does get a little weirder at the top because there's a smaller pool, but there's no reason why one player shouldn't ever be matched up against another player, all things equal. If they're like, if you and Indez are the same MMR and you're queuing at the same time, you should hit each other eventually. There should be no like, no, you're in separate hidden pools, man. There's no, what do they call it in Dota? The shadow pool. Like, we don't have any of that shit yet.
Right.
But who knows? That doesn't mean that there isn't some weird output causing that just doesn't really make any sense. Like, it's not intentionally set up that way. Let me put it that way. So maybe I'd throw it out there. If you observe that again, if we can like, I don't know, somehow collect the data or peg it to, if we can find any kind of pattern, we can try to start an investigation. But dead end so far, my friend.
It's really interesting because like we have obviously our own, guild or our team chats. And everybody kind of came to like the same understanding. Like we're just keeping track. We would play against pretty much the same 5 to like 8 players throughout the whole day. I remember last day, like for example, Elijah, I think he played probably like 60, 70 games. I played almost the same amount. I never queued against him a single time. Or any of my other teammates. They were all queuing at the same time. I never once did play against any of those guys, and we were all like at least in the top 200, which was really weird. And
that is
I kept
really
playing.
Weird. And you're not the only one who told me that. So it does make me wonder if there's some like external factor that is causing. Like, could friends lists somehow be causing an issue where it tries to not match you up against your like I genuinely don't know. This is a great Axie mystery we need to get to the bottom of here.
That's interesting. Your friends list. Wow.
I mean, there's only so many things, right? Like the Axie client it's an alpha client. It's pretty simple. There aren't that many buttons. So like, how many possible factors could there be messing with it?
Right.
But the way you said, like, yeah, all my, and I know Elijah's like, CTG or whatever. You guys chat with each other. So I wonder if it tries to. Like, could it be an anti-cheat thing because if you get matched up against your friends all the time, then you could start like fixing games to trade MMR or something.
Right.
But
that makes sense because when you look at the leaderboards too, like on Axie Zone, and you check through everybody's like match history, sometimes they'll play against the same player like one game, not like one after the other, but like there'll be one game, it'll be a break, and then they'll go back to playing the same person again, the next game, and you see that pattern quite a bit. So,
I mean, again, we'll like I feel like they would have told me that when I ran it up the ladder internally, but you never know. Maybe it just didn't click. Maybe I didn't present it right. So, yeah, something to think about. If maybe keep an eye out for that pattern in this next season. That's just a PSA. Like Yellow Panther, I see you there. Yeah, let's try to figure this out because it does really matter. I think, and it's like. the more money we put into the arena seasons, like, and the more Axie scales, I actually do think rank does matter at the high level, in terms of like player scouting, as like more teams come in, as like we've seen it in Dota, like people like Excalibur. You know, you don't have to have any connections, any network, know anyone in the pro scene. If you're literally number one on the ladder just by your own merits, people see that shit and they take note, and like that is a way to get picked up. So. Trying to maximize the fairness at the high level. Like I know, to reference Dota again, the matchmaking algorithm has been updated many a time in Dota's history, and it's had some better and worse periods in terms of high level matchmaking. I've heard a lot of pro players argue about the trade off of how long do I sit in queue versus the quality of my game in terms of it all being very high level players, and that's. You can't have it both ways. You can't have an instant queue and then also make it all top 200 players.
I have 60 energy, and if I want to get through all of it, it'll take me 6 hours.
Yeah.
I have to wait at least 5 minutes per game to find a game first.
Yeah,
so it's rough, man. Like to be able to find games at the top. Like because the off season, I intentionally try not to be in the top 100, because if I am in the top 100, it gets almost impossible to find a game.
Yeah.
And on top of that, those games are exhausting because like you're playing against other really good players, and
that's true.
This is a game of mind games, and one slip up of like you not noticing one card was used, or you lose track of energy or anything like that, it's going to
it's a game of inches.
Lose you the game. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I think Jiho would say, yeah, that gets fixed by growth. We just need more players. We just need more pro players coming in, and then that'll fix our queue times, which is partially true, actually. I think that more players does always help when it comes to matchmaking, and more players trying their hardest, you know, sort of like playing to win, so to speak. That tends to make the best kind of MMR like ELO systems. So, all right, let's switch gears a little bit, though. It's been hyped up. You know, we've got a new season coming very soon. It's a little bit delayed at this point. I don't even think that's a leak. It's pretty obvious. We've been intending to keep these seasons moving, but, you know, per usual, stuff takes time and scaling is hard, and we only have so many devs. So, new season very soon, and there is going to be a balance patch with this one. What are we looking forward to nerfing or buffing the most here, Theban? What's really grinding your gears? And this is a tough balance, because I think I'd calibrate this by remembering with our balance changes, we really look at aggregate data and big usage. So
right.
There are some things that I would say are very annoying and very strong that might not necessarily be nerfed super hard, because it feels like there are also very strong counters against it. You know, so
right.
It's that Dota vibe. Some things are supposed to be broken versus other things. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're broken in aggregate, like at large. We got to nerf these parts. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts, though.
Yeah, I got a lot on this. I've been talking to my chat about this for the past weeks, obviously ever since the season ended. So this is my theory as to what is gonna be balanced. At least it's gonna be. I got 5 cards for sure, I think. So it's going to be Double Talk, Cute Bunny, Grass Snake, Nemo, and Chomp. That's 1. So that's 5. And then for the 6th one, it was either going to be Zigzag or Bidens, possibly. But yeah, so for me, like,
and all those are nerfs, right?
Yeah, all those would be nerfed, like some kind of change to it. Like Double Talk is just crazy how, like for example, if you have a Double Talk plus Ronin, there isn't a single Axie in the game that can live against that. It doesn't matter how much shield you put up, like it just doesn't work. So you have to like, you will kill every Axie. Then Cute Bunny, obviously, I think like the stats on it is ridiculously high. 120 plus 30 is a 150 total stats, and then it can stun you 2 times.
Dude, I was talking to somebody yesterday. I think it was Max. This was off stream. We were talking about some programming stuff, and then we got sucked into Axie, and we started battling each other to try this stuff out. And I had Chomp on one of my backliners. It's like, yeah, but you don't get any value out of it on your backliner. I'm like, it's still a 120-30, man. I think I'm getting plenty of good value out of this on a backliner, despite it not having anything to chain with. That card feels like, how many of those cards you mentioned like let's say you were to reduce their damage by 10% across,
Right,
or like
right.
minus 10 across the
Mhm.
board. Would that be enough? Because a lot of those, it's like the most powerful axes have combinations of these skills. So it would be
Exactly.
maybe like a minus 30 overall across all their abilities if all of them got
So
minus 10.
I
Is
think stats are pretty much the only way you can actually balance these cards.
mhm.
Um, Mainly because version 2 is coming out and they're going to be changing a lot of these cards for version 2 already.
Yeah, that leak
So
was something, huh?
exactly. And I think it only makes sense to change the stats. I think Cute Bunny, like bringing it down to 110 is completely fine for me. I think like although it's really good, again, you still have that chain effect. And then you can also have axes that are like faster than your
Mhm.
opponents. If you have Cute Bunny in your team, if you play against a faster opponent, like you're still gonna have a rough time
Yeah.
because they're gonna be able to remove those chains themselves. Um, I think double talk. I had an interesting way to balance double talk. 10 damage or 15 damage. People were saying how it used to be like 60 damage, I believe, and then they had to buff it up because it wasn't that good. But
Mm.
one way I think you can fix double talk is like make it so that it only works once per turn, the effect. So that,
Oh, okay.
you can't just go double talk, go through the shield, double talk, go through the shield again, where only you can only do it one time where you double talk, go through the shield. Um,
That's pretty creative. I like that.
Yeah, I think that would be good. So grass snake, like I know that its win rate is not very high anymore as it used to be in the beginning of the patch. But my problem with grass snake is that it's such a polarizing card. It literally changed the entire metagame on its own. Everybody has to cater their axes towards that. Like these unkillable plans with Zigzag
Hmm.
and Biden's came out because of that. Cute Bunny became more popular because of Grass Snake as well. So something that controls the metagame so hard, like because of one card, is just a little bit much. I feel like
Zero
just
energy poison application. You gotta love
is
it, dude.
and
You
it's
gotta
two
love it.
charges too. And I feel like for that one, even a nerf like minus 20, like the shield, like you remove the shield on it, that
Hmm.
would already nerf the card plenty.
Yeah.
Right? Like that, like just some of those number changes is good.
It is kind of interesting. Like I was looking at, I've been using axieworld.com recently just to look at cards. It's just a really nice, simple database to sort cards. And if you look at all of the zero energies, it is a little bit, it's interesting to see the variance across them. How you have like, you know, Biden's is so good, a zero cost with 50 shield that removes all debuffs. And you have Mint that's like the same concept, but then it's Silence Whisper where you're debuffing another Axie. And it just feels like, yeah, those two cards aren't the same. I know the numbers are the same, but they don't have the same level of punch, right? And then you look at Nemo, it's like, damn, dude, this card's busted. You can combo it with any other card. It doesn't even have to be an Aqua card. You just throw that Nemo onto anything, and it does 30 damage. That's pretty solid, right? You get some nice extra out of that. Then you look at poor Cottontail, and it's like, okay, I don't have to combo with anything, so I can just use it. But being a zero cost with zero damage and zero shield, it just feels bad. Like
Nope.
every time I see somebody with a Cottontail Axie, I think, all right, I'm already a step ahead. Poor Cottontail. That was one of the first parts that I remember hearing Elijah really dumpster on. Like anybody with a Cottontail beast, fucking put that thing on the bench. All right. Like compare Cottontail to Disguise, for example. Zero cost, gain one energy when comboed with a plant card. It's a bug card, so that's why you see those Disguise plant tanks in the front. But it's a 20 shield, 20 damage. So it feels like you get the energy and it still gives you a little something extra. Yeah, I don't know. I think there might be some calibration needed a little bit with these zero costs. Some of them are just so much better than some of the others, and some of them you literally never see. Square Teeth, Puppe or whatever, Pupae, the Grub Explode. I've like actually never seen that card.
There are some players in the top 100s who tend to experiment with those things, and they make it work. I guess like some of the cards, like just because they're not popular, it doesn't mean they're not good.
That's true.
Uh,
It's not the
I
best
think they can
metric.
be good. Yeah, but Nemo though for sure that is a insanely good card. Like one of the reasons why people love playing Aquas is because of Nemo. If you can have Nemo on any Axie, like you're gonna take it, right? If you
Yeah.
can have it in your team, you're gonna take it. I think balancing that to like 15 damage, 20 damage, I feel like should be the minimum change to it. 15 damage, I think is still good. It's still
Hmm.
gonna be playable. People use it especially to like destroy opponents' last stands or stop them from going to last
Yeah.
stands by using it as your last attack at 30 damage. It's just such a good card. People want to balance aquas, but I feel like Nemo's the thing that enables these aquas to be good to begin with.
No, totally. And I mean, even Jiho said, I think in the last dev chat, like it's really hard. Sirius, right? It's a really hard card to balance. Where I was playing this antenna lineup the other day, and it's sort of similar to Sirius, right? But instead, you have to chain all the antenna abilities together to get the steal, and it just feels so much worse than Sirius because it's not even like you're chaining it with other bug cards. You have to chain it with other antenna cards. So it's so limited, and it's like you're all in or whatever. But Sirius, it's like, all right, I wanted to heal, I wanted to pumpkin, and you can just like throw that Sirius in there just in case. You can just play one and mix it with whatever. Would it be too harsh if they made it Sirius has to be comboed with another Sirius card? Is that just
I
is Sirius just antenna then?
So I talk with a lot of the pro players or like the top players in this game, and most of us believe that Sirius is not a good card.
That's so
So
funny. That's the most
we
classic
don't
Axie shit ever. 40% of Axie matches have Sirius in it, and
right.
the pros are like, nope, it sucks.
Yeah, I mean, like most players have even transitioned into removing Sirius and playing with zigzags for their plants instead.
Wow.
I mean, the reason why is because people have adopted to Sirius, adapted Sirius. What they do is they just play their cards turn one. The likely chance of Sirius coming out in future turns is unlikely. And if your opponent doesn't have energy and you play Sirius, it's like the worst shit ever for you.
Yeah,
The
that's
person
pretty
playing
bad.
Sirius. It's just a 30 damage, 30 shield card. It's like it does absolutely nothing, right? And it's such a big swing for your opponent. They're happy with that. And if let's say your Sirius does work, you do take your opponent's energy. Like all you're doing is taking their energy and dealing 30 damage to them, right? But you still spent one card to use your Sirius. So it's like a decent card when it triggers, and it's an awful card if it doesn't work out.
So when you compare
So
that to a card like Nemo, it has no fail scenario. So it's like,
yeah.
yeah, I didn't steal it, but there's no chance of it not working. So it lets me build my strat around what I have. It's like more stable, I guess. That's maybe a good way
Exactly.
to frame. So I've been playing a triple Sirius lineup for 2 seasons now, and people have started to figure it out. And you're exactly right. The counter is you just play all your cards, so I never have a chance to steal energy. And all of a sudden, I have like 3 Axies that all have Sirius, where I'm just holding all these Sirius cards that actually don't do anything. It's painful. It's so sad, but I'm glad people have figured out the cheese because I should not have been able to climb to 1800 playing triple healer, triple Sirius plants. It's so stupid. If people do save energy, yeah, you just win. But have you tried this? I can't tell if I'm big brain or not, but I've been doing Sirius and Carrot on my backliners, like Rosebud, Sirius, Carrot, and then +1, or like Shiitake or something. And then if you get into the 1v1 with 3 energy, it feels like you basically win no matter what. Where if you just play Sirius and Carrot in every combo. If they attack you, you get an energy. If they try to save, you get an energy. And in the 1v1, if you trigger Sirius, it's devastating.
Yeah, I definitely played in that, like against those Axies while I was climbing through the like when I switched to Trezor just the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. The only problem is like it just doesn't have that much damage, so you kind of need to like make sure your midliner can delete their midliner first. In a 1v1 situation, it could work.
Yeah.
But other than that,
Totally
like
right.
yeah, it's rough to try to win with that. Like I think it works under the 2K bracket, but once you reach over the 2K bracket, it'll get so much more difficult, especially against like
Sounds
zero
right.
cost Axies and stuns and stuff. Like they're gonna be able to just keep chipping away at you.
Yeah. No, totally. And I realized I started struggling against the beast meta. Like those double Nutcracker Rimps are just, they do so much freaking damage, man. I just can't. It's bananas. It really is. Like the amount of times I've like started the match against a double Nutcracker Ronin and my frontliner's just dead. I'm like, nothing even happened yet, and he killed one of my Axies. This isn't fair. Like those beasts are. I've played a lot with, like, my first lineup was Plant, Beast, Bird, just the classic. So I've played Beast a lot, and I really don't like the play style. It's like if you get the combo, you crush, and if you don't get the combo, sometimes you get crushed. And I guess a
Exactly.
lot of Axie is like that, but beasts feel particularly sensitive. Like you're just waiting for the combo. Those matches though, where you get the rimp is you kill an Axie and you get an energy gain out of it. It just feels so busted when you get that sweet spot. But yeah, I got to be careful here. I can't leak, but I will say, since it's so close, one of the reasons why this season has been a little delayed, it's not just nerfs in this update. There is at least one pretty significant formula change. And there are a couple of formulas that maybe need some tweaking or changing, so we'll leave it a little ambiguous. But
Can I speculate, or am I not allowed to
oh, you can
speculate here?
speculate. I'll poker face it, but you can go for it.
Okay.
But I think formulas are just hard though, because when you change formulas, sometimes that means you have to change other cards that like, oh, that weird buff card actually now breaks this formula or whatever. So
Right,
like
right, right.
there are a couple outliers you got to recalibrate to tie it all together. And formula changes are scary, man. You really don't want to mess up the formulas because then shit can get a little too. Some things will be really broken, some things will be laughably bad, but that's also just how balance goes. But yeah, speculate away, man. What do you?
So I think, I mean, we all know what everybody has been frustrated with, and my theory is probably going to be crits. I think we're going to get what we want. We're going to have a nice change to critical strike. Personally, I felt like they should just change it from 2x into like 1.75 or even 1.5 for the crit changes. Just increase the chances for Axies that have higher morale. But yeah, I just think that that's probably the best shit. Like 2x and at such a low percentage rate was just it's too polarizing for sure. I get what Jiho said. He said, did he say it? I'm not sure, but he said that it's not fun if the better player is always winning.
Yeah.
Right? It's
There's
not
a
fun. And I
healthy
get
amount of
that.
RNG that needs to exist. I mean, it's in every
Exa-
game. Think about Ogre in
Yeah.
Dota, right? He's like that healthy amount of RNG. It's like built into him. And expected value matters. Like Phantom Assassin has gone through phases like that, where it's like you can have a relatively low percent chance to crit that does a lot of damage, but it can't be miscalibrated so much that you're just one-shotting people with daggers, because that's not fun. There's no counterplay. There's no skill there. You just one-shot somebody. It's stupid. So yeah, I think crits. I tend to be more of a like tighter expected value guy. I want less variance. I want a higher percent chance to crit with a lower crit multiplier, all things equal.
Exactly.
I know it's a little bit less fun, it's a little less sexy, but I like the math a lot better. I feel like it's just more fair, and it sets up for better counterplay scenarios, which tends to be good for high level games.
That's really interesting, and I think like then we can theory craft things like Imp, right? A card that is based off getting energy because of crits. Maybe it becomes more valuable. Not like, for example, in the marketplace, all the 4 axes have Imp on it, right? So you don't really know like what's gonna happen there with some of these changes. Like that's another beautiful thing about axes. Like you can always speculate things. You can always try to predict something.
Yeah.
Put yourself in a good position to like benefit in somehow or get the next meta going, but you never know. Maybe what I'm talking about crits, I'm speculating crits, but it might not even be the thing that they're going to change.
Right. And God, there's so much I want to talk about with like version 2 or Axie Origin as well, because now that we have some of those card leaks, I feel like I can talk around some of the obvious things in terms of it's big changes. And I think this will really start to bring into focus something that Psychout said in that first dev chat AMA that we did, how there's no such thing as a useless Axie. And even though right now an Axie with Silence Whisper and, like the Strawberry Head and the Mushroom Back, where it's like triple healer, seems like the stupidest thing in the world. Maybe in Origin Axies, where it looks like there's some other parts, or I think we saw a Sakura card, so that says something right there, right? Who knows, right? Like maybe these other parts come into focus where Silence Whisper heals in a different way, or maybe like Strawberry is a healing ability to like heal your friends, and this is some sick backliner that keeps the frontliners alive in Origins because you have all these new combos that didn't exist in the version of battles that we have right now. Some of the Axies that feel like, man, there's just no use for this. I'd love to release this dude into the wild. You might be regretting that now once you see what Axie Origin looks like, right? So that might open up
Right.
this whole new door for and demand for Axies that are unconventional for our current battle system, but make super sense for this brand new meta in this new game. So I think that's just something to remember when you look at the balance changes, where we're thinking always about universe, big picture, Axie utility across a suite of games, not just like Axie isn't just the current battle game. The battle game is one little part of this Axie universe that we're building. So even Axies that seem, quote, useless right now, maybe on land gameplay, they have some really sick use. Like I always use that example of maybe when we're doing these like raids to stop the Chimera invasions on land, we need like World of Warcraft style Axies where you have like pure tanks, pure damage dealers, pure healers. You know, you need those backline healers keeping the tanks alive because that's how it works, you know. And in land gameplay, you can't put Rosebud on your tank. You need survivability skills, dude. You got to live. You rely on your healers just like you would in a 40-man raid. Who knows, right? I'm totally speculating. I have no idea if that's actually going to be real or a thing in Axie. I'm just saying that there's a whole suite of applications Axies could be applied to beyond what we see now. So that's the stuff that really, really gets me excited. Anyway, I'm jumping ahead though. Back to card balance.
I mean, you make a really good point in terms of like, you don't know what Axies are going to be huge next. One thing for me, like reading some of the comments, especially on Twitter, like when Jiho's posted about version 2 and saying like, oh, this is, you know, long ways away. I'm scrolling through these comments and they're all talking about Terminators. Like, please don't nerf Terminators. We're Terminator breeders too. Please don't nerf it. It's my investment. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, look, even if Terminators get nerfed or they nerf a card, like in version 2, everything is going to be different, right?
Yeah.
Like just reading these cards, like if you just look at the numbers on the cards, like the damage or shield or how the effects work, everything is going to be different. It's not just Terminators. Every single thing is going to be different, right? It's going to be fair game in every single way. And in terms of like protecting your investment and like, you know, nerfing the cards that you like or the Axies that you like every single other Axie has the same chance of it occurring to them.
Yeah.
And you need to, and this is also part of like the game, sort of say. It's up to you to put yourself in a position to like benefit from the changes, to understand like, okay, is this a good thing to go with? And I think what you said, or what the whole Axie team said, is important. Like, there's no Axie that is useless, right, in the future. And as long as you like keep that in mind, doesn't matter what Axie you have right now. If you think it's going to be nerfed or buffed, that Axie is going to find value no matter what.
Dude, well said. And there are absolutely people out there. Like I know some Axie collectors that have a side account. It's like a vault of dumpster Axies that they buy with like really weird combos that they think might be good in other applications. There is a vault that I found of just Silence Whisper Strawberry Axies. Straight up, just because like it's so bad right now. I think their logic is there's no way this doesn't get buffed or find some sort of an application in the future. It's too terrible, these two abilities mixed together. And there's a lot of other combos like that. Or, you know, some of the parts where we have duplicates, like you can get a triple Nutcracker right now, right? You can only use the double, but you can get that third part in the ears or whatever it is. Maybe that'll have synergy down the road. Like Nemo's the same way. They've got the Nemo fins. Right now they don't do anything, but maybe in the future having a matching tail and fins could be really good. Like these are just really obvious, almost like aesthetic things that I'm not saying it's a good investment, never financial advice, but I do know that there are some players whose whole strategy is hedging their bets for the future and buying stuff that sucks now because it might not suck forever. So depending on how long you are on Axie, who knows, dude? Like you definitely want to try to think about that timeline of, okay, we're in the present, here's the past, the future's here. Like I always want to look back at the past, so let's try to simulate what the future might look like so that we can get ahead of the curve now. You know, you sort of want to think yourself in the middle of that timeline and try to get, if you're always just reacting to changes, you'll never be ahead of the curve, right? If you want to be ahead of the curve, then you have to you got to be predictive. You got to forecast. You got to try to think about different realities that could happen and then try to assess the different chances that each one will manifest and then, you know, try to hedge your bets with expected value that way. That's it's a good strategy right there.
What you said was really cool about the triple nuts and the Nemos. Like, people who are breeding, they're scared to breed some of the higher end guys because they're not sure what the balance changes look like. But one thing that feels like it'll never go out of fashion or like it'll always be solid are these pure axes. Like, I know they're not the most optimized axes for PvP, but the optimized axis for PvP, people are looking to get to like top 1,000 ranks, right?
Yeah.
Everybody else can still utilize these pure axes, and when like in theory, looking at those cards like Sakura, and Bubble Maker, like when we saw those cards, like we can,
Self gain 2 bubble. I remember reading that. I was just
yeah.
like, what the hell's bubble? What the
So we can kind of like assume that eyes and ears are going to play a big factor in the next version. So like all of a sudden I feel like these pure axes have so much more value because no matter what you want to like breed them into, like at least you have that nice blueprint. You have that axis that like you can adjust it into whatever way that you want to down the road. It obviously doesn't make as much money like breeding these pure axes anymore because there's so
Yeah.
many of them, but they're always going to be useful.
Yeah, and who knows? Like mutations could always increase or change as well. It's a lot of it. A lot of it's hard to predict because growth in Axie is hard to predict. Like one thing that we get recommended to us a lot is do another breeding event. Like Christmas Axies are so cool, Japanese Axies are so cool. We want another one of those.
Ooh.
And as cool as that is, like what made those old events work, ironically, is that they happened at a time when Axie wasn't that popular. So by letting it run, they doubled as sort of a marketing campaign and like a little injection to the Axie economy to get people to breed more than usual. But now that Axie's so popular, it's almost scary to think, like, imagine if we did like the Japanese parts, but for another
Oh,
culture. God,
there'll be so
so many
many.
Axies. It's like, and then like, are they even rare? And if they're not rare, what's it all for? But what is rareness, right? If we've got 2 million daily active users right now, and we honestly believe we'll have 100 million, let's say like 2 years from now, then like a breeding event, it's all relative, right? Like it's just one more layer removed. As I'm saying, like, yeah, nobody was playing Axie back then. Relatively, nobody's playing Axie now compared to how many people could be playing in the future. So they would be relatively scarce if we're hedging our bets on more exponential growth, which we kind of are. I do genuinely believe we're going to have at least 1 or 2 more exponential growth spurts for like little sprints like we experienced before. The decks will probably drive a big part of that, and more product rollouts, more applications for Axies, all that kind of stuff. So it's not impossible to do a breeding event, but the bigger the ship gets, the scarier breeding events get. So I agree they are really hype and really exciting. I think we're almost afraid of how hype and how exciting they are and how much people like the 1 million Axie was a real dose of that intensity. Like so many people vying for that, so many people so mad that Max found an automated way to push the envelope with that. Yeah, breeding events are too cool, dude. The hype is real around that stuff. So I'm not saying we'll never do one again, but yeah, you got to be a little careful. You don't want that crazy inflation of Axies just all in one spurt like that if there isn't demand on the other side.
What would be cool is there was like specialized axes for like, let's say placing top 1,000 or something, like as a prize. Um, or like even, some Mavis events, right? Some big tournaments that some LAN events, some axes for the champion or something.
We'd have to figure out how to do that. I've always thought that would be cool, but then you have to do that in the realm of not breaking the formula of Axies. Like
Right.
we don't have an Axie CRISPR. There is no thing that's just like, aside from rolling Origin tokens or Mio tokens. That is the one thing that we could do. That's like maybe the closest we could get. Like how sick would that be? You win the Axie Pro League, right? You go to AxieCon, you win the World Finals. Instead of a ring, we give you 5 AOC tokens to roll on the stage right there.
That's sick.
Like how
That
sick would that be? That might be too big of a prize, to be honest.
that
Like,
is that's a huge freaking prize. Yeah.
but yeah, I think that is sort of as close as we can get though, because that is almost like your custom Axie. And even if it ends up being a crappy Origin, it's like you rolled it. You birthed that thing.
Oh, it'll be the biggest collectible in the world.
Yeah.
I'm like that there it is.
So, and of course, there's only so many AOC tokens. So if we were to do something like that, we'd have to be very specific and choosy and have a very, very real, real roadmap and strategy. But that's not impossible. Again, I feel like I'm throwing a lot of really big ideas out there that people are going to get excited about. But this is all
Early,
just
right?
spitballing, you know. Um, but yeah, I
We're
mean,
all early, and there's so much that can
yeah.
happen. Like that's what I love about Axie. You know, that's what got me involved because like our imagination just runs so wild that, and but at the same time, like this is all possible.
Yeah. So, all right, would you rather have, let's say, if you, let's say you won a tournament, would you rather have 5 AOC tokens or $100,000 worth of AXS?
What's an AOC token
Those
worth?
are so like you burn 5 of those, and that's what rolls an Origin Axie, and it has like about a 30% chance to have at least one Mystic part.
Ooh, that's rough. $100,000 or five.
Or basically, yeah, 30% chance to get a Mystic. That's the trade-off.
Oh man.
But it
I
is an
mean,
origin guaranteed. Every mystic is an origin. Not obviously not every origin is a mystic. So it's a
right.
guaranteed origin. It'll be like a late number, so you'll have like origin number, Axie number 8 million, or
Right.
But
I
yeah,
mean, an origin. What is like the like
the
what are we talking
floor,
about
the
for
origin floor is
origin?
like maybe three ETH or
It's
something.
$12,000. Nah,
Yeah,
I'm taking 100K.
take the
I mean,
hundred k.
I'll take the 100K, sell it, and buy a Mystic Axie.
Yeah, there you go. That's the thing, right? You could just buy your own mystic with that. Yeah,
But to
that's
be
true.
fair though, like that depends at what time you have this
Yeah,
event,
that's fair.
right? Like if this event happens 1 year from now and you're doing this, you never know what the
Yeah,
value of Origin is. What maybe with land play, Origin axes have other sort of value, right?
yeah.
And then their floor gets raised up, and then all of a sudden you feel like, oh yeah, I want to take this.
So here's the real kicker, though, that I think most people would go, yeah, but you obviously have the chance for it to be a multi mystic, right? Like
Yeah,
there's like
yeah.
that 0.01% chance you hit the quad mystic, bro, and you
I'll
gotta.
tell you, anyone who can win a tournament is not at that level of
It's
gambler.
not a gambler. Yeah,
Is not a gambler.
that's so true. Yeah, no,
They
that's
they
a good
they
point.
will bust out their calculator first before they make a decision.
No, you're totally right. I love that. Yeah. Um, no, I am excited about the version 2 of Axie Battles, and transition periods are always hard. This is like going to be a big turning point in Axie's history, where we have this current battle game that's great, and then we have another game that is sort of attached to it, but also different, like similar but different. It's not really an expansion, but it is definitely an expansion of the universe. It's just going to be a very exciting time. Like that'll be a moment where it'll really feel like, damn, there's so much to do, and we'll have a new game to learn, and like it's cool to learn about new mechanics also. Like seeing that bubble thing makes me legit excited. Like, are we gonna have like Power Word shield level? Like I'm buffing up my other Axies with shields. How's healing gonna work? Like I'm really
Mm.
partial to healing mechanics. I'm one of
Yeah.
those guys, like sit down World of Warcraft, we make new characters. I'm playing the priest or the druid. That's just I
Right.
like healing, and I see my friends that are like, I'm a rogue. I want to kill people. So even in Axie games, like my first set, my first tank had Rosebud on it. Like I think I've played with healing cards more than any other in Axie because it's kind of my style. It's how I like to roll. Plant 2 aquas, that plant's got Shiitake or Rosebud on it. So seeing that Sakura card of like whenever you play a card this battle, heal this Axie for 8 HP. That's really cool. Like it's labeled as power, like sort of instead of a skill, it's like a power up. But it's like you play this card in the first round, and then I would imagine that means it stays sticky. So then, like
Like
whenever
Grass
that,
Snake.
yeah, like whenever that actually does anything, oh, you just get a little 8 HP heal. Like I wonder if Sakura's stack, right? Like so you play
Right,
it a
right.
second time, maybe you get a lucky draw. Every time you play a card, you heal for 16. I don't know if that sounds good or bad or not cool or it's different, and I'm excited to get my hands on that. I want to see what
It-
that looks like.
it's hard for us to say what's good and bad because we don't know like what the adjustments are going to be to like health pools of axes,
Right.
what the relative like what the average damage or stats of each card is. But it's cool. Like I can see that there's new mechanics and stuff. I read on the newsletter or from last month that was released yesterday. Is that what it's called? The newsletter?
I think so. Yeah. The the update, monthly
The
update. I
update,
don't know what
yeah.
its official
So
title
it
is.
said that in version 2, they're trying to make it easier for like your friends and family to be able to learn Axie and like play it. I'm just a little bit not worried, but I just hope that they don't remove the whole mind game aspect from the game. I feel
Hmm.
that's one of the things that attracted me to this game, and
Yeah.
that I really love. So let's. I hope they maintain that. Sometimes making the game easier is not for the better.
Yeah.
And I will think. One comparison I can make is when version 2 comes out, I feel a lot of people will still like be hesitant to play it. It's very similar to when Dota 2 first came out, right? When
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you were there when Dota 2 first came out, but
I
like
remember that.
people after TI1 still play Dota 1. They did not want to touch Dota 2 at all. Even like before TI2 came around, I feel like a few months earlier, that's when most of the players, the pro players, continue to like keep practicing in that because of TI2. And then when TI3 was coming around, or when TI3 happened, that's when almost majority, if not all, the Dota 1 players have now moved
Oh yeah.
into Dota 2.
No, you're
Like
totally
before
right.
that, there were so many people that would just continue to play Dota 1 because they just preferred the game. They just loved the game.
And
Um,
it's an emotional thing, and it's a little illogical at a certain point, and you do get used to a certain way of doing things. Even if Dota is an improvement, you're still used to that old way. Like I remember one of the most nitpicky things I remember is Lich ult. People noticed that the RNG of how it bounces randomly across targets seemed to be a little bit different, where it's like, you guys didn't get the RNG exactly right. Or it looks like the Dota one hits heroes 10% more than the regular one. And this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about, man. And it's like, dude, oh God, you're very astute observation, but this is such a ridiculous thing to be like, yeah, I'm not playing this to fucking dumpster
yeah.
game Dota 2. What is this
It was
crap? Like,
one hero example that you made, like it was Earthshaker in Dota
mhm.
1. He was such a badass. In Dota 1, like when he blinks and echoes, it's like terrifying, right?
Yeah.
In Dota 2, like he blinks, echoes, I don't know, it was like pressing a squeaky toy, like it didn't have that effect that it had in Dota 1 when you played, and it just felt so bad. Like even though it was literally the same, almost the same patch,
Yeah.
and
It's like same
the hero pool
numbers,
was,
just not
yeah,
the same
but
aesthetics. Yeah.
it didn't feel good. It didn't feel good playing the hero at all in that game.
Yeah.
That,
No,
that
you're
it was just like to add on to what you said. I just remember that so clearly.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. So I totally expect some of that with Axie, and I think this is part of the live experiment in this evolving timeline. Games take a long time to make, so I think when the decision was made, like we're going to make Origin, we need to make this version 2 of Battles. That was made like much more than 6 months ago before I was hired, and at a point where Axie's growth was feeling pretty linear, and I think there was maybe some nervousness that like, okay, maybe we believe in our ecosystem and universe, but maybe this first game that we made missed the mark a little bit. Maybe it's a little too hard. Maybe the mind games are, it's fun for competitive players, but for folks that aren't, into the next level mind games, it's just a little overwhelming and frustrating. I think that was a very justifiable and understandable mindset when they started working on it. But in the time it took to build Origin, this version 2 of Battles, version 1 blew up. And now there's like literally millions of people that are hooked and spending a lot of time learning and perfecting and going deep on version 1. It's like, oh, shit, maybe we underestimated our own game just a little bit. And I don't want to take anything away from Origin because I think it is, they're just different games. It's different body parts. One's a little more deck builder, one's a little more mind games. They're both good. The little alpha version that I played of Origin, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. It was an alpha, so it's always hard to tell, like, hey, this part sucks. It's like, well, yeah, it's not finished yet. Like, okay, that makes perfect sense. Can't wait to see it when it's finished, and haven't seen it since. So there's a lot of excitement there, but I think you're absolutely right. There will be some purists that will, there's still people playing Counter-Strike 1.6 somewhere right now. It is never hopped on the Go bandwagon. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes for Axie stuff. A month and a half ago when we had that series of FUD YouTube videos, there were moments where it almost felt like QAnon level like conspiracies of like, are they even working on land? Is it real? Is it all real? Like, come on, man. That's seriously like, so seeing that was a little eye opening of, I'm sure we'll have some, version 1 truthers that are, just ride or die with version 1 until the end of days. And that's okay. More power to you. I guess that's the beauty of freedom. You can play whatever you want. And if you really like it that much, then go for it. But I do think Origin will be really fun and, should have some nice complexity to it. I do hear your thoughts, though. I think there is, it feels in the moment like a good move to make the game easier and more appealing, but it's like short term at the expense of the long term. And I think Jiho I had a conversation with him where he's like, I saw that happen in World of Warcraft. I was like a hardcore competitive player and just slowly got less interested in maintaining that as the game shifted away from catering to people like me. So we've all experienced that. Like, there's a lot of competitive gamers on the dev team that have experienced that in other games. So I remain confident that we'll strike that balance. But we'll see, man. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, right now, maybe it's like kind of a shameless plug here, but I'm actually creating content to help people better understand some of the intricacies to the game. So I made a YouTube channel recently, and my next video is actually on understanding how to understand the card counters in the game. Yeah, it's a little bit of a teaser for you guys. I'm gonna release it in like the next probably 20 minutes or something like that after this. So yeah, this one's a nice video. I think you'll enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
I couldn't really find any like solid content on that, and it's something that like I've been using quite a bit, but other people don't. Like I've actually coached a few individuals already in this game. Like these are like top 1,000 players that want to hit top 100 and stabilize, and they weren't doing this. So I had to like teach them on the spot like how to do this. So yeah, I'm gonna be creating some content for the mass, and hopefully they'll be able to better understand. Because again, like would you call this beta or alpha right now?
I think we're still alpha. We're like about to get over that hump. It's a trio of things. It's like back end scaling. It's Origin battles. It's free to play, which is part of Origin battles, like where you can play non-NFT axes and like at least play through the tutorial and get a feel for like, yeah, I like aquas before you have to actually open up your wallet and buy aquas. And then the last one is like land and that expansive universe of like non-esports axie games. And I think that's sort of like our basic set of offerings that will make Axie feel a little bit more like, hey, we're just a universe now. There's multiple things that you can do. It's not just breeding on the internet and then playing battles in this one game client with a lot of stuff coming soon. Like the esports server being private whitelist is... I can't wait till we're done with that. I'm glad we did it, right? The opportunity cost was no esports at all, so this is definitely better. But dude, I think once we have the challenge server back live, we're going to see basically every scholarship under the sun put together an internal tournament. We're going to see all these third parties jump to finally run their events that they've been wanting to run but sort of waiting in queue for. I think there's a little bit of that dynamic when we created tournament scarcity by accident. It was purely just through virtue of having to do these upgrades, and they take a long time to finish and test and deploy. So we had to turn off the challenge server in the meantime. But when you tell people they can't do something, they just want to do it more. And when that drops and we can just run tournaments and whenever we want, however we want, you guys can scrim and challenge your friends. Like that is such a key piece of the ecosystem for competitive play that is missing right now. Like just not having scrims is fucked. It's so fucked. So, and we know that, and we're at the very tail, and that deployment is so close, and I can't wait until that comes back because we are going to see the floodgates open with esports, and that's just one more thing you can do in the ecosystem, right? I can finally approve these giant opens. We're like, I want to do 1,000-person open. Like, great. Hang on there, bud. Soon TM. I don't know exactly what the date is, but it's coming soon. So, yeah, very much alpha, dude. Like, I think if you can't scrim, I think our esports is like pre-alpha right now. These are really delicate times for Axie esports. I'm excited to get over this hump.
Yeah, I'm very excited, man. This is crazy. Like how you said, it's still alpha, and there's so much going on. We got a 2 million player base alpha. That's That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, and people think like, oh, am I too late to get involved? Again, like this is early, guys. Like you want to position yourself for when everything actually hits its strides, and
Yeah.
um, like you're early. Like that's all I can say. I'm early. Like even though 2 months ago when I came in at its peak, like
Yeah.
I didn't care. There's always ways to maneuver around this to make sure that you position yourselves properly to benefit.
Yeah. No, totally. Like I've told people before, the very first stock that I bought was Zynga. They made like Farmville and like those Facebook games. This is when I was in college.
Mhm.
2 days after I bought it, they announced that they were having all these internal issues and like their CFO quit and like 20% of their employees quit. And it was like this stock got cut in half 2 days after I bought it. It was a small investment, it was like $400, but at the time that was a lot of my money as a broke
That
college
was.
student. And I didn't stop investing. Let me put it that way. I held Zynga for 5 years. I think I sold it at a break even. I still sold it too early because it's up now from where I entered or whatever. But you just start. Okay, I learned. What did I learn from that? How do we prevent that from happening again? You look at some other stocks. You start to diversify, and as you grow and your portfolio gets bigger, you look at that little Zynga and go, "Oh yeah, I'm down 60%, but." It was only $400. That's pretty. It's like you buy a team of Axes. At first, it feels like no, I messed up my first team of Axes. But 3 months from now, dude, you're gonna have like 30 Axes, and you'll be like, oh man, that funny team that I had. Oh man, I remember when I thought that was good. So like we all make mistakes. It's really hard to have a perfect history when it comes to reading these big economic systems and when you're making investments and stuff. So you definitely want to try to calibrate your strategy for short-term, mid-term, long-term. And a short-term error, it feels really bad in the moment, but with the lens of time, you can always carve out wins in other spots and find ways to recover and break even. So I always think about that though. Even in the real world of investing, I started with a big loss. Not a great way to start the old investment empire. Fucking Zynga. God damn it, Farmville.
Poker, yeah, Zynga Poker on Facebook.
Yeah. But all right, anything else you want to get off your chest, man? Man, the time flies by. I love chatting with people
Dude,
like you. Good
yeah.
conversationalist, man. It just
I mean, I
just
hope we
fucking
can do
flies
this
by.
again because, like, I have so much I can talk about this game, and there's always a lot of things on my mind about the game. I love sharing it.
Yeah.
It's not the same when you're just doing it on your own, like during the stream.
Yeah.
It's very fun to talk about this. So let's try to do this again, I guess.
Totally. No, I'd be down for that. And yeah, I'm just so excited about the future. We're almost over this like alpha hump of deploying the really unsexy like scaling updates that are just so important to the back end. The stuff you guys don't really see, but is so key. And in esports, like, dude, I'm starting to see it on the back end. 6 months ago, I was saying it's giving me StarCraft 2 vibes. There's this like intangible energy. There's all this hype. We're all participating in this system. We know it has a future, but we haven't quite realized the value yet. We still haven't converted all these casual Axie players into esports audience members yet. We still haven't really built these storylines. We know Indez, we know Elijah, we know Yellow Panther, we know 1437, but there's still all these people that are like up and comers that haven't been discovered yet and haven't started tweeting and making that content. And even in this preseason, I'm starting to get inbound from tournament organizers that are doing events in November, like, give me a list of casters. I know Chief is a caster. Who else do I have? Like, where are these other talents? And some of them are starting to pop up a little bit. And there's that chicken and the egg thing where, well, nobody would be a full-time Axie caster as a third party if there aren't events to cast. And events don't really pop up until there's an ecosystem of viewers, players, casters that are entrenched in it. And we're starting to see that cycle take a little bit on both sides, dude. I don't want to leak it, but there's a pro Dota player that I think is going to be casting a tournament coming up in less than a month's time. I think there's a good chance I might be casting a tournament or two coming up in a month's time. I've been trying to tease on Twitter a little bit, but as this infrastructure gets built out and we have more first-party events and especially more third-party events, third parties come into this ecosystem looking for our expertise, right? So if you're an up and comer or you fancy yourself as a commentator, that's going to be a more valuable skill set. Think about like a random exchange that wants to come in and throw a $100,000 Axie tournament, right? There are going to be exchanges in the future that list AXS or SLP, and then they want to pair that with a big marketing expense. What better way than doing like a tournament or something? They don't have any Axie experts on staff. They don't know any Axie casters. So that's an opportunity for you as a contractor to see that announcement, or if you get wind of something like that happening, to go, yo, I'm your guy. You know, start networking with Community Gaming, right? They've got an event on the schedule coming up. Who's casting that? TBD. These are all opportunities, right? So this is the tip of the iceberg, but it's so exciting on the back end, seeing that like buy pressure on both sides, getting inbound from people saying, hey, I kind of want to be a caster, you know, give me some advice. What do I do? Who do I talk to? And then seeing people on the business side being like, yo, I'm doing this $20,000 tournament. Can you put me in touch with some casters? It's fucking happening, dude. The magic is happening. I love it. You love to see it. You love to see it.
Yep. I'm excited. I mean, I wouldn't mind casting either. You know, the price is right.
Yeah,
Let's go for it. You know,
Yeah.
drop that knowledge bombs all day.
Yeah. No, dude, totally. I hate to be a tease because the esports scene is still so quiet right now, but I hope we're on the cusp. Like this time next year, I think the Axie infrastructure in general is going to look a lot different. So
I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I'm glad to have you aboard, man. I'm really glad that you fell for this game. It gave me some extra confidence as well, you know, because I believed in it, but it was a big switch for me leaving Dota behind and seeing people like yourself that I really respect from a pro gamer perspective, like reaffirming kind of what I thought about this game, but from a totally different lens. I don't know, man. You weirdly gave me a lot of extra confidence in Axie too, knowing that, like, because to me you were like an unbiased third party. You know, like I join, all the Axie people tell me Axie's awesome. Of course, they all love Axie, so they tell me it's awesome. I show it to somebody like you who doesn't have any skin in the game, and you go, "Hey, dude." Like those weird late night DMs, like, "Hey, bro, I was looking at your inventory. You want to trade Axies?" Like, I could tell that you were fucking into it, and that created a feedback loop in my head of like, okay, this is real. This is scalable. Like other pro players see the same things that I'm seeing. And I know I'm not a pro player, so I wasn't sure if I was just seeing it because of wishful thinking or if it was actually there. And fucking thank you, man. Like I know you just did it organically, but it made a difference in my lens, you know?
Well, if you didn't join the Mavis team, I would have never even considered Axie myself. So it's likewise, you know, we kind of just like sort of fed off each other in that situation then, if that's the case. And yeah, thank you for also helping me, like, you know, get introduced into this game. Yeah, it's amazing what it can do, like how we found ourselves here. Like before this, I didn't know anything about cryptocurrency or anything of that sort. You know, I'm still learning. I'm still new to it. I would say I'm kind of like really deep into Axies, and I understand its infrastructure, like you know, with the breeding, all this mechanics. But in terms of crypto stuff, I'm still new to that. Like I'm still gonna be learning that, and you know, maybe in future, like looking at other games as well.
Yeah. No, and that's one of the great things about Axie, and you know, we see it from people in developing countries and developed countries. Whoops, sorry about that. Likewise, it like gamifies learning of blockchain. Gives you a great reason to start learning some of this stuff, and whether you choose to invest in other coins or projects, it's still you're still learning along the way. It reminds me of skiing. You know, I'm there for the fun, but I'm also getting a workout by the end of the day. We're here for the fun, but you do end up learning a couple things about crypto along the way. So it's just some added bonus. All right, well, we'll let you get out of here. A lot of Dota to watch today. Main event of TI. This is where it gets exciting, man. A lot to watch, a lot to do. Thank you so much, man. Folks, make sure you give him a follow. He's 1437X on Twitter. It's just 1437 on Twitch. You've probably seen him if you're watching this. I'm going to drop a link. Big-time content creator, big-time pro player. You're going to see him around, whether it's on this side of the microphone or in the player booth on the main stage. I think Mr. 1437 here has got the chops to make an impact. So check out his content. Was your YouTube as well, just 1437?
No, I made a new YouTube channel from scratch because I wanted to just have it purely for Axie content. So I made 2 videos recently, but this next one I'm gonna be releasing it probably in the next 20 minutes. This is for, I think everyone's gonna want to watch this one.
What's the
'Cause-
link to your new channel? Let's drop it in Twitch chat.
Okay.
Let's get a.
Yeah, sure.
I want to sub. I gotta find this thing.
I'll put it in the chat right now.
Perfect.
This is it, and if you would wait like maybe 20 minutes, the new video will already be released
Nice.
to be able to watch. Yeah, and it's gonna be nice. Hopefully I can get enough subs that I can change my link already. I think you need to hit like
Yeah.
300 or
There's like that
something, and
minimum
then-
threshold. Yeah.
yeah, because I just made the channel, so I haven't really had the chance to do it yet. But
Oh, this
it's
is-
it's gonna be cool.
Prime though, dude. Prime YouTube real estate. Axie content to break the algorithm. Let's fucking go. Let's do it. No, I love it, dude. This is great. All right, man. Well, best of luck to you. Thank you. I know you're up early anyway, but thank you for sacrificing your OG versus secret watch time to chat with me. I do appreciate it. We'll be happy to do this again. I'm here basically every week. So I'm going to be on the road coming up. I think I'm heading to Lisbon, and then we're going to be in New York. So Axie Tuesday might have a little break there, but man, it's always a pleasure, my friend. So many great things ahead. And I always walk away from these conversations feeling like, got to get back to work. Just like excited to continue the grind. So
Yeah, likewise, and I hope
Yeah.
I can do this again with you soon. This is it's been lots of fun. Lots of fun.
been too long since the SADPC, that's for sure. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Big shout out there. Of course, we'll get this up on the Zyori YouTube. Axie Tuesdays will continue. A lot of fun. Numbers still continuing to go up. So shout out to each and every one of you in the Axie universe. Go check out that October dev update if you haven't read it yet. And we will catch you on the next one.